Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. This is going to be your daily cryptocurrency market update. And first of all, I'm wishing everyone a fantastic Friday. This is just going to be a short and sweet one, as quite frankly, in regards to the overall market and where it's going, we don't really have a lot to say that we haven't already said. You guys will know that ultimately think that the trend now that's in place is an upwards one, and we think that it's not worth betting against that. You know, we've seen shorts completely smashed from 15k all the way up to 31, nearly a doubling in Bitcoin's price. And of course, shorting the small altcoin market when the trend is against you, I think is very detrimental. But that's just my own opinion. Ultimately, you know, I think that 30k, what's happening right now, and we'll address it, was probably the most obvious pullback that we've had so far. 30k, nice big round number, same as 25k. You're going to get some sort of it's going to act as resistance. And this was all stuff that was foretold on this channel. We've also cross-market analyzed that you had gold at a key level of resistance, and you also had the S&P. Now, I do think they're going to push past this, just like Bitcoin, and we're going to see that upside continuation. However, and this is a very good analogy of what's happening right now, 30k is that hurdle. Bitcoin was square up to it. If anybody's ever tried to jump hurdles, you typically, unless you're a very gifted athlete, don't just jump the hurdle from a square on position. Usually you have to take a few steps back or go and get a bit of a longer run up in order to smash it. And that's exactly what's happening with Bitcoin. So we'll do a little bit of TA on this. Today you do have the core retail sales for the US, for Canada. You also have retail sales, and then you have flash manufacturing PMIs and flash service PMIs. And then you actually have a Fed member speaking today. So there is a bit going on the sort of economic calendar. We'll see, because Bitcoin's really climbing. You know, one question, it's a very valid question, and it's a question that I asked myself before we put money back into the market at the start of the year, was why would this market do well in such uncertain conditions? And actually, those uncertain conditions, you know, we put money back into the market. We had a conversation as a Patreon. Anyone that's just joining, there's a link in the description, on the 5th of January, where we had a conversation, said, look, we're going to put money back into the market here. And the reasons were mainly technical, but also we did look at the macro and related the macro in terms of the hiking regime to the 2-year yields, which he said is pretty much done. And that has since come to fruition. Now, there's been a bit of a pushback from that generally. Silicon Valley Bank, I think, supported our narrative, and now you've got a pushback. We saw UK inflation come out sticky. We're watching the yields climb, although they're having a bit of a rest. And this is very common for this to take place. I think the yields are going to fall, and ultimately I think the market's going to do very well on the back end of this. And what I'm really trying to get across here is, you know, one thing that people ask themselves, on the JP, is why would Bitcoin do well in an uncertain macro environment? But the question is, whenever you buy the bottom of the market, it's always uncertain, right? Yields we think are coming down, and we think the market's going to continue to go up. We've done a lot of cross-market analysis on the Fed funds rate, which we think is going to do this. We ultimately think that that's going to allow markets to do well. You know, if you look at this historically, we can take Bitcoin off and overlay something like the S&P, just to refresh it all, guys, because we've said all of this. I don't really want to keep butchering it, or repeating it, I should say. You know, rather confusing that they put the S&P in the same color as the yields. But ultimately, we think rates are going to go sideways. And if you look at what the S&P did in this kind of an environment, you know, or this one, for example, we think the S&P is going to go up. We think generally S&P correlation with Bitcoin is good. And ultimately, you know, you're going to have this kind of opportunity before you get some sort of crash, which is likely going to occur when everything's a lot higher up for the market. So a crash could occur at sort of this 42k range, which could probably, you know, who knows where it's going to take you down. But ultimately, I think the solution to that is they just print, and the actual metric system that we use to weigh up Bitcoin and other cryptos is getting destroyed. So it's a good question to ask. You know, we saw the DR Horton sales come out. It looks kind of similar to what happened going into 2008. However, if you had bought when this was at its bottom and its low point, you'd have done quite well. And this is the thing with a lot of these metrics. They're at points where actually they become buying opportunities. You don't want to buy at the top of a market when everything's hunky-dory and great and things look amazing. You typically want to take advantage of fear. in the correct manner. Remember, we got out of the market up here, guys, and ultimately didn't take a position until down here. And we weren't buying any of this fear because there was reason not to. We still thought that the kind of macro conditions and technically things didn't look right. There was a good technical indication that this was going to be a point where this broader trend was going to reverse. And ultimately, we're looking to ride whatever comes in. I think you've got the 5-wave structure here. I think Bitcoin's leading. Then you've got Ethereum and altcoins lagging somewhat behind. But ultimately, I do see more upside. I think everything's looked set for upside. And this pullback at 30K, which was very much warranted and kind of predicted, of course, was and is very healthy. Now, you're coming back into this zone here. Personally, I don't think you fall through this. I think you're going to get a bid before you take out these levels. And if you do take out this price action, look for 25K, which is still healthy and still supports the bull case. Because that is the neckline of our inverse head and shoulders, which generates us this 35K target. We've spoken about all this previously. You know, I think you're just going to have to ride this pullback out, sit tight, and look for it and use it as an opportunity. You know, right now we're looking at swing trades that we're going to take when this turns around, and ultimately we'll be likely accumulating more crypto on this pullback when the price is right. So a little bit of data coming out today that's probably worth watching. There is a lot of recessionary fears. You know, stocks typically don't do well in a recession. However, the recessionary fears range from mild to horrific, which was sort of the view in 2022. Now it's mild, and we'll see kind of where we end up. You know, there's lots of things we can watch to sort of show us if and indicate to us that the recession is here. You know, things that typically start to go down, like employment and all this stuff, which is very correlated with the S&P. We've done a whole study on that going into it. So that is something to watch. Tether mints another billion USDT. This is, of course, going to probably fuel and is fueling Ethereum. It's been rather strong, actually, whilst the market sold off, which is good to see. We are seeing a little bit of a waning of Bitcoin dominance at this key point. I'd like to see this continue to the downside and alts to do quite well, but also Bitcoin to do well as well, just alts outperform. So I'm not going to keep you guys for any longer. Hopefully you've all had a fantastic Friday so far, and it continues to be exactly that. That's really all we've got for you guys. This is, in my opinion, just a pullback. And ultimately, you know, this will get bought up. Don't be too greedy. And yeah, that's all I've got for you guys. If you enjoy the content, a like is always appreciated. So as a comment, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching. See you in the next.